The government of Tunisia unraveled today as a state of emergency was declared in that North African nation. Protesters took to the streets demanding democratic elections. The president's whereabouts were unknown, and the prime minister assumed power for now. Jonathan Rudman of Independent Television News has this report.
Outside Tunisia's Interior Ministry, a vast crowd gathered in scenes which will send shockwaves across the Arab world. Thousands of people yelling for revolution after 23 years of being ruled by the same man. At first, the police held back under orders not to shoot from Tunisia's president. A few demonstrators chanced their luck and climbed on top of the ministry's doors. "We come in peace, don't kill us," their banner said. And all around us, the extraordinary sight of a people deprived of democracy for decades, now intoxicated by the sweet smell of freedom in the air.
Everybody around is so happy and it's unbelievable.
What do you want the president to do?
I want him to quit.
The president quit?
Yes, because we don't believe him when he said that he will bring us democracy and all this. I think it's all lies, and I think the best thing for him is to change or to go out.
What has he done wrong, the president?
The president is a killer.
He's a killer.
He kills tens of Tunisian people.
Who can take over in Tunisia? Who can be
Look around you! Look around you!
There is a lot of people who can take over. We are responsible, we are educated, we can take care of ourselves.
This is historical what's going on right now. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. For us to witness this and participate in it is incredible.
Tunisians watched from roofs and ornate colonial balconies as people power confronted the police state. Then a van drove past, carrying the body of one protester killed yesterday. The crowd roared in anger, and the police responded with tear gas. The people ran for the safety of the back streets, shouting the president's name and calling him an assassin. Later, we discovered that we'd left behind us one man who could not escape. Mixing with the smell of tear gas. This is the first Arab revolution of the 21st century, or it will be brutally suppressed.
It's been a violent few weeks here, with scores of Tunisians believed to have been shot dead by the security forces. Mounting anger on the streets, forcing the president to dismiss his entire government tonight and call elections 3 years early. Then a newsreader announced a nationwide state of emergency, with no public gathering of more than 3 people allowed, he said. Another development, the Prime Minister, Mohamed Ghannouchi, announced that for the time being, he is president and that he will restore the dignity of the state. It's been a remarkable day here, and nobody knows what will happen next. A day which has witnessed the referendum people.
Not only have the French and their corporate masters destabilized the Ivory Coast, we also see the government of Tunisia falling apart today. Tunisia is a Muslim country where its leaders have collaborated with American and French governments to inflict pain on those the Bush administration branded as terrorists. In 2004, it was said that both fans and critics of the president, Ben Ali, firmly controls many aspects of Tunisia's life, including a highly effective security apparatus that has obstructed extremists' efforts to seize power and disrupt the country. Well, today we see that security apparatus is being taken apart. It is an age-old tactic used by the European and American corporations and NGOs of divide and rule. They turn ethnic groups against each other or escalate old divisions between the people. They turn males and females against each other under a game of empowering the and women, they turn old generations against the younger generations. Why? It is so that corporations can exploit a country's resources. We see this in Sudan. The threat and talk of military action in the nation is premature and must be avoided. Mr. Qatar's stint with the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund alone brings reservations about his ascent to power. The World Bank, over the decades, has been very detrimental to the African continent. In fact, there needs to be a united front relative to our dealings with the World Bank. In other words, there must be clear demands of the World Bank prior to any Pan-African organizations having serious partnerships with it. Because of China's great sway and partnerships throughout the continent, the World Bank's game is to use the diaspora as a means of cutting into China's continental influence in Africa. When dealing with or partnering with the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, I suggest our demands be high, be very high in exchange for that partnership. That said, this does not excuse bad behavior of African leaders who have too often cared far more about appeasing their own egos with titles, large bank accounts, and foreign holdings than they care about the welfare of the people in the countries in which they govern. Raila Odinga, Prime Minister of Kenya, was seated as Prime Minister, which was a new position created in Kenya. After much killing and loss of property in Kenya, his initial call for military action against President Gbagbo was premature, but after he visited the Ivory Coast and spoke with Mr. Gbagbo, the military option was toned down. The Ivory Coast must not shed more blood, especially behind rigged elections funded by Western bodies, often swaying elections in favor of their candidates. By refusing to sit down and reason together with President Gbagbo, Mr. Qatar has shown great arrogance while being protected by an 800 United Nations force in the hotel with an estimated additional 300 rebel soldiers. This is the spirit of the power behind him, and that power is not African, and nor is it for Africans. Just as corporations in the United States can now spend an unlimited amount of money on behalf of politicians under certain conditions and not reveal who they are, these corporations and wealthy individuals have long practiced this in African nations to insert candidates of their choosing. They use this strategy in Zimbabwe and other nations of Africa. Why? It is to maintain multinational corporate sway over the resources of those various nations through their chosen so-called democratically elected leaders. Democratia means to cut or divide the people and then rule them. This is the Greek word for democracy. The Greeks were the ones who, it is stated, started democracy. It is the corporate entities who are ruling. The banking elite of Europe have long had their hands in the affairs of the Ivory Coast. The manner in which the French, the Swiss, the Americans, and literally every plundering nation of Africa's past and current are chopping at the bits to get the terror seated, even if it means war and the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. This should bring great pause and keen thoughts about the situation in the Ivory Coast. We must stand against this approach. This is T. West with Afro Synergy.
Insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. Find an agent at StateFarm.com to help with unexpected savings. That's getting to a better state.
You're in your car, but it's not starting. You want to curse your dead battery by name, but in all honesty, you don't even know what brand it is. After a jump and a drive, you pull into AutoZone and pick up a new Duralast battery. And given its performance, you won't be forgetting that name anytime soon.
Come into AutoZone for a new Duralast battery. Rugged, dependable power you can count on. Duralast batteries, sold exclusively at AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone. back to Weekends with the Breakfast Club, number 17.
Have you ever wanted to learn another language, but just feel like you don't have the time or energy to do so? What if a weird little secret could let you start speaking any language?
This is T-West, and welcome to Afro Synergy.
The United Nations says Ivory Coast is on the brink of civil war after the country's disputed presidential election on November the 28th. The international community recognizes Alassane Ouattara as the winner. But the incumbent Laurent Gbagbo has refused to quit. He argues that he is the country's rightful president as the Ivorian Constitutional Council declared him the victor. Gbagbo gave this exclusive interview to Euronews' François Chignac in Abidjan.
Gbagbo, bonjour. Voilà un peu plus d'un mois que la commission électorale indépendante.
It's been over a month since the Independent Electoral Commission declared your rival Alassane Ouattara as the winner of the presidential election. Days later, the Constitutional Council announced that you had won. Ivory Coast is facing its worst political crisis for years. Where's the country right now?
It must be understood that this was an illegitimate result, which was prematurely declared by a body which had no right to do so. It's on this point that the West is digging its heels in. After the vote, the Constitutional Council meets and then gives the result. It declares who is the elected president, and that was me. It's not open to debate. What the West is arguing for is not legal. It's imposing the will of the powerful on somebody else. I don't agree with it.
The EU is questioning your legitimacy.
The European Union just follows what France does. Amongst today's great global powers, each has its own sphere of influence. When it's something to do with Francophone sub-Saharan Africa, France speaks and the rest follow. France drafted all of the UN resolutions on Ivory Coast. We contested this several times, but we're a small country. We're not a nuclear power. We have no right to veto, and we've no seat at the UN Security Council.
Your rival, Alassane Ouattara, has formed a government and appointed ambassadors. Ouattara's choice to be ambassador to France has been formally recognized.
But France is wrong. France is wrong.
You spent 30 years in opposition during a long political career. Nicolas Sarkozy has given you an ultimatum to resign and leave the country. What's your message to the French president?
It's simply unacceptable that a head of state, under the pretext that his country is more powerful than another, gives an ultimatum to one of his counterparts.
Your opponents say that you're not a democrat, that you're a dictator, and that you carried out an electoral hold-up. That you're responsible for a denial of democracy in these past weeks. What's your response?
They are in no position to speak like that, as they're all holed up in that luxury hotel. They supported one-party rule when we were fighting for a multi-party system. Ouattara, Bédier, out in prison when Ouattara was Prime Minister.
Laurent Gbagbo, are you prepared to sacrifice the lives of Ivorians to justify your vision of democracy?
It's not a question of sacrificing Ivorian lives. It's a more global question.
But we're on the threshold of that. The situation here is tense.
It's not the first time.
You won't resign?
Listen, I've been elected. You should ask that question to those who have not.
If the international community continues to put pressure on you in the coming weeks, will you resign?
But why would they continue with such unfair pressure?
If there's violence in the streets, if there are atrocities committed by both sides, will you resign?
By who? I've got a question that I'd like to ask, one that people don't ask enough. If I said I would leave office right now, who could provide an assurance that it would bring peace and that it would not bring even greater violence?
If ECOWAS forces intervene,
They'd be wrong.
and if young Ivorians clash with those ECOWAS forces, will you resign?
I will see, but it's not on the agenda for the moment. What's on the agenda is to negotiate. So we are negotiating. I ask myself why those who pretend to have beaten me oppose a recount of the votes. That's what I want to know. I ask those people to support a recount.
So you accuse your rivals of committing the atrocities after the second round?
Exactly. Have we beaten or mistreated people, even raped women, depending on whether they voted for Gbagbo or not? It's a key question.
When the UN representative for human rights points the finger at you, how do you respond?
That's another question. A question to which I'd like to reply in some detail. What is the problem today in Ivory Coast? It's that we've held elections. The problem is knowing who won them. That's at the root of all this. I said that I am the winner because those bodies, which are the only ones with the authority to do so, declared me as such. The others will say otherwise. They can do that, but they can see it is without any legal basis. So, like in all these cases, when there's no debate over the essential question, which is who won the election, they go on about other matters to divert attention, like brandishing the issue of human rights. In 2000, when I was elected, it was the same scenario.